I'll tell you right now, some stories sound too wild to be true, but I swear this one happened to me, and to this day, if I hadn't lived it, I might not believe it either. Picture this: you spend half your life dreaming about your perfect house, quiet streets, nice neighbors, plenty of space for your three pride and joys, which just so happen to be a lineup of classic American muscle and the kind of challenger that'll make a grown man cry. You finally land that dream home, think you're set for a peaceful life in the suburbs. And then you meet the HOA president, or as I like to call her, the beige-clad warden of Rexdale Estates. I'm Darnell Torado, and cars are in my blood. My 1969 Dodge Charger RT, a 1970 Chevelle SS, so black it makes the night jealous, and my blue Dodge Challenger Hellcat I call Azure. Every inch of these machines is spotless, no rust, no leaks, just pure Detroit steel, chrome, and horsepower. First 3 weeks in the new place I kept to myself, got the garage set up, waved at a few neighbors, and generally just enjoyed the feeling of being somewhere I actually wanted to settle. The only wrinkle was Beverly Jenkins' short, severe helmet blonde hair, lips always pressed thin, and an attitude that made you want to double-check your mailbox for fines, just in case. She gave me that look, the one that says, "I'm keeping an eye on you," but I figured, hey, every neighborhood has one. Turns out I had no idea what kind of storm was brewing. It started the morning I was supposed to land a huge contract for my company. I step outside, coffee in one hand, briefcase in the other, and my driveway is empty. Gone. Azure, my daily driver, missing. You want to talk about panic? My heart stopped cold. I run to the garage, punch in the code. Both classics are gone too. Nothing but a chill and an empty garage staring back at me. I'm already dialing 911 when I spot 3 crisp, official-looking papers under my doormat towing notices. Apparently all 3 cars were non-conforming vehicles and had been towed. No warning. Just gone. At first I thought maybe it was a pro job. Who else would nab 3 cars like that? Then I saw the towing company name, All Night Towing. Here's the kicker. I own All Night Towing. I'm not talking I'm the boss in some abstract sense. No, I'm the CEO and sole proprietor. The biggest, most reputable towing outfit in 3 counties. Beverly Jenkins, the HOA queen, had my cars towed by my own damn company. The audacity. I stood there, my panic morphing into a kind of cold, righteous anger. This wasn't just petty. This was personal. I called Tamika Jones, my right hand at the office, who could run dispatch blindfolded. She picks up, and before I can even get the whole story out, she's already got the files. Turns out Beverly called the tow at 4:32 a.m., signed off as HOA president, cited the bylaws about non-conforming vehicles, and said it was an emergency. Tamika's reading me the notes: engine noise, ostentatious display, undesirable elements. My guys Miguel, Carlos, and Dave followed every protocol. They even snapped photos and left the cars locked up tighter than Fort Knox at our secure lot. The more I listened, the more I realized Beverly Jenkins had declared war using my own company as her weapon. There was no way I was letting this slide. If she wanted to play power games, she just picked a fight with someone who brought his own artillery. First things first, I had Tamika send a premium invoice to the Rexdale HOA, billing them for emergency tows, after-hours rates, and 3 days storage itemized right down to ostentatious display. Tamika, bless her, even offered to deliver it with a glitter bomb. I told her to keep it professional for now. My next move was to gather dirt. Turns out Beverly's history in the neighborhood was anything but angelic. She'd targeted a disabled vet for having a faded pickup, tried to get a family fined over their kid's tricycle left on the lawn, and even forced a guy to repaint his garden gnomes beige to match her personal sense of taste. More than a few people had stories to tell. Seems she didn't care who she hurt as long as things stayed bland and under control. That same afternoon, I went to pay Beverly a little visit. Not as an angry resident, but as the CEO whose services she so eagerly abused. She opened the door, and I could see the exact moment she realized who I was. The color drained from her face. I kept my cool, told her I was just there to discuss the emergency job she'd contracted. She tried to shut me down, said she'd acted within her authority, that my cars were a violation, and that was that. That's when, right on cue, Tamika sent one of our flatbeds down the street, Azure glinting in the sun as it rolled back onto my driveway. Beverly went from white to purple with rage, shrieking that I couldn't just bring it back, that it was a violation. I smiled, told her as both owner of the cars and owner of the company I could decide exactly where my vehicles went. Her only comeback was to sputter about conflict of interest. Then she started in on the colors, and Noyes said, "My cars didn't fit the taste and distinction of Rexdale." That's when she slipped up, called my driveway an inner-city drag strip. Yeah, that happened. Now, I'm not naive. I knew exactly what she was saying, even if she never said it straight. I told her my attorney was interested in those comments and her definition of undesirable elements. That shut her up, but not for long. She swore there'd be consequences, tried to slam the door. But the look on her face as my car rolled back into place was priceless, that I could have bottled. I called my lawyer Lena Petrova a shark with a smile who loves nothing more than the scent of HOA overreach in the morning. She laughed so hard when she heard the details I thought she'd choke on her latte. We got to work, documented everything, pulled the recording of Beverly's little performance on her porch, and mapped out a strategy. Her comments about inner city and undesirable elements were more than enough to raise some legal eyebrows. The day of the emergency HOA meeting came around fast. The community room was a sea of beige walls, carpet chairs, you name it. 30 neighbors and a board that looked about as comfortable as a porcupine at a balloon party. Beverly opened with her usual grandstanding community standards, rules non-conforming vehicles. She made it sound like I'd brought the apocalypse to their cul-de-sac. Then it was my turn. I laid out the facts straight as I could. I told everyone how my cars were classic collectibles, always kept immaculate legal, and most importantly, parked on my own property. I told them how Beverly had bypassed the usual HOA process. No warnings, no chance to explain, just a 4 a.m. tow. I showed them the invoice, the bylaw she'd twisted the note citing undesirable elements, and best of all, told them I owned the towing company she'd hired. You could have heard a pin drop. The gasps, the whispers, it was like somebody dropped a cherry bomb into a library. One neighbor, Frank, stood up and asked plain as day if the president had really spent HOA money to tow my cars without warning. I said yes, showed them the paperwork, and let Beverly twist in the wind. Mrs. Carmichael, the secretary, cut through the tension, said the board never approved the expense and bylaw changes required a vote. At that point, the room turned. Neighbors started sharing their own stories. The garden gnome guy, Mrs. Olivia, whose kids got cited over a tricycle, the Patel family, who just wanted a satellite dish. Turns out everyone had felt Beverly's brand of order one way or another. By the end, Mrs. Carmichael stood up and told Beverly, right there in front of everyone, that she should resign for abuse of power and misuse of funds. Beverly's face, man. I wish you could have seen it. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She gathered her stuff and left without a word. A few folks even clapped. The HOA issued an official apology, paid every cent of the towing bill, and after that made me a part of the committee to revise the vehicle bylaws. We wrote new ones, clear, fair, focused on actual issues, not some control freak's idea of suburbia. And Beverly for sale sign went up 2 weeks later. I saw her once after that. She actually came to my garage quieter than I'd ever seen her and told me she was moving. She looked at me and for a moment almost seemed human. She said maybe she'd gotten carried away, maybe tried too hard to keep things perfect. I told her Rexdale's a neighborhood, not a museum. She nodded, smiled a tired little smile, and left. It didn't end there, though. Turns out word got around. My company started getting calls from other HOAs. Some wanted to check their own rules. Some just wanted to say thanks for standing up for what was right. Even my drivers became minor celebrities for towing the boss's cars and living to tell the tale. Beverly, meanwhile, apparently moved to a retirement community where, get this, she immediately started running afoul of their HOA rules. I heard she got dinged for her car's paint being too shiny and her flagpole being a few inches too tall. Karma, as they say, is a real thing. The vibe in Rexdale changed almost overnight. The new board was open, fair, and more interested in building a community than enforcing sameness. I made friends, real friends. Mark Lee, who moved into Beverly's old house, turned out to be a gearhead himself, and we bonded over restoring his old Triumph motorcycle. Mrs. Carmichael ran the best community picnic we'd had in years. Even old Mr. Henderson put a pair of pink flamingos in his yard, said it was his Declaration of Independence. Was it perfect? No. Some of the old beige guards still gave me the side eye. But I could live with that. The rules were clear, fair, and most importantly written by us for us. Nobody worried about tricycles or gnomes or paint colors anymore. My cars were just part of the neighborhood, and people actually started waving when I drove by instead of ducking behind their curtains. Funny thing, about 6 months later, I heard Beverly was still at war with her new HOA, still fighting about standards, still getting cited for one thing or another. Sometimes the universe really does keep score. So if you ever find yourself up against a petty tyrant, remember this: sometimes all it takes is a little backbone, some documentation, and maybe a touch of well-placed irony to turn the tide. I got my cars back, my neighborhood found its voice, and one woman learned, hopefully, that you can't enforce happiness with a citation pad and a scowl. And if anyone in Rexdale ever tries to mess with me or my cars again, well, let's just say I know a guy with a tow truck and he's always on my side. What do you think? Was I right to stand my ground, or did I go too far? Have you ever dealt with an HOA horror story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear about your take on justice, community, and what makes a neighborhood feel like home.